In the years immediately following the Second World War, American automotive design went on a collective bender of excess. Detroit was consumed by a philosophy that bigger was always better, churning out chrome-laden V8-powered land yachts that required their own postal codes just to park. But in Cincinnati, Ohio, an eccentric millionaire looked at these giant gas-guzzling road monsters and decided that what the hard-working American public really needed was a pickup truck that looked like a galvanized steel toaster on roller skates. This was the brainchild of Powel Crosley Jr., a man who had already conquered the world of consumer goods. He was the genius who realized that if you put shelves inside a refrigerator door, people would buy millions of them, giving the world the Crosley Shelvador. He made affordable radios so that every household could listen to the news. And he even owned the Cincinnati Reds baseball team. His radio station, WLW, broadcasted at such an absurdly high wattage that locals claimed they could hear the baseball games through their dental fillings and bed springs. Powel Crosley was a man who understood how to think big. Ironically, when it came to automobiles, he could only think microscopic. The result of his grand automotive vision was the 1947 Crosley Pickup. To put its size into perspective, if you parked a modern heavy-duty truck next to a 1947 Crosley, the modern truck might accidentally inhale the Crosley through its radiator grille. It possessed an 80-inch wheelbase and rode on tiny 12-inch wheels that looked like they had been stolen off a sturdy wheelbarrow. Weighing in at just under 1,200 pounds, it was a vehicle that could be physically lifted out of a tight parking spot by three moderately athletic teenagers with nothing better to do on a Saturday night. Yet Crosley was not building a toy. He was dead serious about creating the ultimate utility vehicle for the working class. He envisioned small business owners, farmers, and delivery drivers using his pint-sized pickup to navigate crowded city streets and narrow farm lanes. The visual design of the vehicle reflected this utilitarian focus, though it did so with an unintended comedic charm. The front end featured headlights that bulged out of the fenders like the eyes of a highly caffeinated frog. The grille was a simple stamped metal piece that resembled an industrial vegetable grater, and the hood sloped down at an angle that suggested the front of the truck had been gently compressed by a heavy falling object. But the real comedy, and indeed the engineering tragedy of the 1947 Crosley Pickup, lay hidden beneath that tiny sloping hood. To power his post-war vehicles, Crosley decided against a traditional heavy cast-iron engine. Instead, he utilized an engine design he had acquired from the military, where it had been used to run searchlights and generators during the war. This was the infamous Cobra engine. The name sounded fierce, like a striking desert predator, but the reality was far less intimidating. Cobra stood for copper brazed. The Cobra engine was not cast in a foundry. Instead, it was constructed like a high-tech high school science project. Workers took stamped sheets of steel, stacked them together, wrapped the joints in copper wire, and baked the entire assembly in a massive furnace to braze the pieces together. The result was an engine block that weighed a mere 133 pounds. It was so light that a mechanic could literally pick up the engine block with one hand, carry it over to the workbench, and set it down without even straining a muscle. On paper, the Cobra was a marvel of weight distribution and efficiency. Its displacement was just 44 cubic inches, putting out a screaming 26 horsepower. For a brief moment, Crosley looked like an absolute prophet of modern engine design. Unfortunately, while a copper-brazed sheet metal engine worked perfectly fine running a generator in the predictable conditions of a military base, it did not enjoy the chaotic reality of mid-century American roads. The Achilles heel of the Cobra engine was the cooling system, or more specifically, the average driver's complete lack of maintenance. If a driver forgot to use antifreeze or if they used the wrong kind of coolant, electrolysis would set in. The thin steel walls of the water jackets would corrode with alarming speed, causing the engine to develop pinhole leaks. Suddenly, the revolutionary Cobra engine was transforming into a very expensive, very hot sprinkler system. Mechanics of the era, accustomed to hammering on indestructible cast-iron Ford flatheads, looked at the delicate, leaky sheet metal Crosley engine with a mixture of confusion and outright hostility. It did not take long for the engine to earn the less than flattering nickname of the leaky block. If you were brave enough to ignore the potential for engine dampness and climbed inside the cabin of the 1947 Crosley Pickup, you were greeted with an environment that redefined the concept of minimalism. Calling the interior Spartan would be an insult to the ancient warriors of Sparta, who at least had comfortable sandals. The dashboard was a flat piece of painted metal with a speedometer that went up to an optimistic 70 miles per hour, a fuel gauge, and an oil pressure gauge. The seats were essentially metal lawn chairs covered in a thin layer of vinyl. There was no heater, no radio, which was particularly ironic given Crosley's background, and the door panels were non-existent, leaving the window mechanism fully exposed so you could watch the gears turn as you rolled the window down. Driving the pickup was an exercise in sensory overload. With 26 horsepower on tap, acceleration was not measured in seconds, rather by calendar pages. If you had a passenger, a full load of cargo in the back, and were facing a gentle headwind, you had to plan your lane changes 3 days in advance. The sound inside the cabin at 35 miles per hour was akin to being trapped inside an industrial blender filled with gravel. Because the truck utilized a rigid front axle and stiff leaf springs designed to carry a quarter-ton payload, the ride quality was highly communicative. It communicated every single pebble, crack, and discarded gum wrapper on the road directly to your spine. Yet, despite these quirks, there was a brilliant simplicity to how Powel Crosley marketed his vehicles. He didn't sell them through traditional fancy dealerships. Instead, he sold them through department stores, hardware stores, and appliance shops. You could literally walk into a Macy's, purchase a refrigerator, a set of fine china, a garden hose, and a 1947 Crosley Pickup, and then attempt to drive your new truck home. This retail experiment meant that the Crosley became a common sight in unexpected places. Small-town florists used them because they could park 3 of them in a single standard parking spot. Independent grocers loved them because they could deliver milk and eggs without burning through expensive gasoline. The truck was rated to achieve up to 50 miles per gallon, a figure that was completely science fiction to owners of contemporary Buicks and Cadillacs that struggled to reach double digits. But the American public's love affair with the microscopic truck was destined to be short-lived. By 1949, Crosley realized the Cobra engine's reputation was hurting sales, and he replaced it with a traditional cast-iron engine called the Seba. While this cured the leaking issues, the damage to the brand's reputation had already been done. Additionally, as the 1950s approached, the American economy boomed, gasoline was cheap, and highways were expanding. The desire for tiny, economical vehicles evaporated faster than water on a hot Cobra engine block. Crosley Motors ceased production in 1952, leaving behind a legacy of delightfully bizarre automotive history. Today, the 1947 Crosley Pickup has transitioned from a quirky budget runabout to a highly prized piece of Americana. When one of these diminutive trucks rolls into a modern car show, it invariably draws a larger crowd than the pristine multi-million-dollar Corvettes and Mustangs surrounding it. People look at it and laugh, not out of malice, but out of sheer joy. It's a vehicle that refuses to take itself seriously, a rolling testament to an era when an inventor could dream up a wild idea, build it in a refrigerator factory, and actually sell it to the public. It makes you wonder about the nature of progress. In an age where modern pickup trucks require step ladders just to reach the engine bay and blind spot cameras just to change lanes, there's something deeply refreshing about a truck you can wash in your kitchen sink. The 1947 Crosley Pickup was small, loud, leaked coolant like a sieve, and rode like a tractor, but it possessed a soul and a sense of adventure that modern engineering often struggles to replicate. If you had the chance to park one of these tiny legends in your garage, where would you drive it first? And what would you actually try to haul in that pint-sized pickup bed? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this journey into the stranger corners of automotive history, please give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss another story of the forgotten legends of the road.